I'm going to be showing you guys how to do a valve check and valve adjustment on your 1993 to 2014 KLX250 and KLX300s. You're going to want to remove all the plastics from your bike except the front and rear, which aren't necessary. And you're also going to want to remove the gas tank so you have access to all the parts that you're going to be taking off. Now with everything out of the way, you're going to want to remove these 3 bolts from the cylinder head. My bike is different. It's a 2007 KLX300R, so it doesn't have a bunch of wiring on top. If so, you disconnect this wiring harness and get all the wires out. If your throttle cables are in the way, you can loosen them from the nuts over here and slide them out of the way. I'm just going to push these over to the side and slide it out. With your cylinder head removed, you can place it on a clean surface. Be very careful when taking off the gasket. It might want to stick. Just be very gentle not to tear it, or you're going to have to replace it. The next step is we're going to be removing the alternator covers on the side. Going to remove this one and this one using a very thick flathead screwdriver. Now with both those sight covers off, you're going to want to get a socket, extension, and wrench, and you're going to want to get, for me, it was a 15 millimeter, but the service manual said 17, so might vary for the 250s and the 300s. But you're gonna want to put your socket on there and turn it until you see a T mark through this hole. I'll get a better view with the flashlight in there so you guys can see it. But you're gonna want to turn it counterclockwise until you see the T line up with this little dot right here. Another way for telling that you've hit top dead center is, it's hard for me to show without a flashlight, but you see those little notches in the cam. They should be leveled with your gasket surface. So according to the service manual, the intake valve clearance is 0.10 to 0.19 millimeters, and the exhaust valve is 0.15 to 0.24 millimeters. So your intake valves are on the rear, facing the rear tire. Your exhaust valves are the closest forward, facing the front tire. You're going to slide your feeler gauge right in between here, right in between that little gap to get your clearance, and you can slide it in through this other side, and I'll show you that. What's he doing? So right now I have the 0.13 feeler gauge, and I'm going to slide it under, and as you can see, it won't fit. This is too thick. So I'm going to take the 0.10, and as you can see, slides right under with just enough clearance so that it's not wiggling around there very easy, but that's how you know it's the tight fit. So my clearance is 0.10, which is right on the edge of being too little. So I think I might adjust it to try and get it perfectly dead center. And for this side, slide it right in. It'll be the exact same. You're just going in through over here. So now your exhaust clearance should be 0.15 to 0.24. Take your feeler gauge, put it through here, put it through here. Mine is 0.18 clearance. As you can see, it slides in there. It's tight, but not loose. Now you're gonna wanna mark your chain and camshaft alignment. That way you don't mess up your timing while taking it off. Just doing a simple line right here. Make it a lot easier for when you put it back together. Using a 12 millimeter wrench, you're gonna wanna crack open this cam chain tensioner. This will allow your chain to be slack so you can take it off. Now using an 8 millimeter wrench, you're going to want to remove the 2 other bolts holding this in. There you go, now it's out. Put this in a safe spot. Here you can see my bolts were actually really corroded. It's not really focusing too well, but they were pretty corroded. So if your bolts are like this, Make sure you take a wire brush to them before putting them back in. Next, you're going to want to remove these 8 bolts. Now you can go ahead and remove the chain off the cam that you want to remove depending on which valve you're adjusting. If you're going to be adjusting both valves, make sure you stick a screwdriver or some long rod to hold the chain in so it doesn't fall to the bottom of your engine. Now using a little magnet tool, grab the valve lifter so you can get to the shims under it, which are right here. Once you have your shims out and you're either increasing or decreasing your valve clearance, you can figure out those measurements. I'll put a picture of the Kawasaki service manual up top so you'll be able to see it all and figure out what size shim you need. Now you can install your new shims in the valve spring retainer with the marked side facing up. Very carefully using needle nose pliers. That way I don't drop it down to the bottom of the engine. Now put these guys back on and push them back where they line. Just light taps. Now with all that in place, you're going to want to install your cam and put it back on the chain. And marking it with a paint marker or Sharpie makes it a lot easier to align it. I suggest a bright color so you can see it. There we go. And align her back. Like that. There we go. That took a little bit of force, but we got it. Just be careful not to nick or damage anything because it's really delicate parts. This is a step that's very important that you don't mess up. This bolt right here, bolt 1, and bolt 6, according to the owner's manual, they are both longer than all the other ones, as you can see when I line it up like this. So this right here, as you can see right there, this part goes right here. That's the relation to it. So this bolt and this bolt are the longer ones. The rest are all the same size. So make sure you have that in order before you put it back on. And make sure you remember where your dowel pins are. This one was right here and the other one came off on this guy right here that goes in this hole. Just pay attention to that. Next, you're going to want to torque those 8 bolts down to 12 Newton meters or 8.5 foot-pounds. It's important that you do it in the order that they're set up. So on the cap, you can see it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You'll see the order right here. You can't pick it up on my GoPro, but it's there. Before installing the tensioner, you have to compress it once again. You can do this by pressing down on this little lever right here. And it allows it to just slide back in. Now I can go ahead and install this guy. He can only go in one way, so there's no way of messing this one up. Now just thread the bolts in, and then we'll tighten her down to torque. Now you can torque those guys down to 9.8 Newton meters or 87 inch-pounds. Next, you can install the bolt washer and spring into the tensioner. Now you can torque this guy to 15 Newton meters or 11 foot-pounds. Now that you've done that, you want to spin this counterclockwise a couple times to set the timing. You'll hear it click a couple times. That's good. It's setting timing. You're going to want to do this, I'd say, about 3 times. Then you're going to line it up just like you did till you can see the T, mean you're at top dead center. Check your feeler gauges, make sure that all your work you did was correct. When you're in there, check the clearance again. Both sides. Make sure it's what you want. When you're finally done with everything inside the engine, you can go ahead and clean the mating surface between the cylinder head and the gasket. Make sure that there's no leftover residue or goop from when you took it off. Just do your best to clean it off. I put a little bit of RTV in there. You can use silicone sealer just to help the little dimples right here slide into place and stay. And then you can go ahead and put your cover back on. You can torque these guys to 7.8 Newton meters or 69 inch-pounds. Now for the final step, putting everything back together, make sure you put your sight covers back in, these two with the screwdriver. You can mount your gas tank back up. You don't got to put all the plastics on, just check if it runs. And if you took the spark plug out, which you should have, make sure you put the plug back in the plug boot, or else you're going to be really frustrated. And then do the final test and check if you did everything right.